Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So those of you who managed to catch the live stream I did last Friday night, which was largely an experiment actually, pretty much everything went wrong. You'll have already seen this machine, and in a much more incomplete state. It's got the UAV that I fitted there the other day. As you can see, a lot's been done here. One of the reasons that I didn't live stream or record most of the work that went on here actually is that the webcam that I use for the overhead camera here, and one of the reasons that I didn't record or live stream a lot of the work I was doing on this machine, which I actually wanted to do, is because the overhead camera I use here, which is a C910, a Logitech camera, which is normally very good. I mean, I'm quite happy with the performance I get out of the thing. 30 FPS, full HD. It looks reasonably good. It can't cope with the underside of this motherboard. If you look at the stream that I did the other day, when I flip the board on its back, there's something about the layout of the traces on the board and the size of the board, the 1200 XL, that just completely makes the camera freak out. And I've tried all kinds of different settings and everything, and it doesn't work. It doesn't seem that the compression ratio can tune itself to the amount of data that's actually coming down the wire, because USB 2 device. I've got a C920 camera which I tried, but I used the built-in speakers on this camera, which are not actually too bad. And the C920, oh god, every time I try that camera it just looks worse. It did cure the stuttering problem and the corruption problem because it's got a built-in X264 encoder, I think. But the built-in microphone on the C920 is awful, awful, just awful. So, and I couldn't be bothered to set up a separate microphone, so I'm back to this one. So as long as we don't look at the bottom of the board, I think we'll be okay, hopefully. Now, I'm going to take you on I've got to be careful when I lift this up because it's not actually screwed together yet. I'll turn it around the right way so that things are a little friendlier. And if I can, yes, I can lift this up here. So here's the back panel of the computer as it's turned out. Now, I give you a rundown of what's actually in it. Of course, we've got UAV, which gives you composite video, S-video, so Luma and Chroma, and I've hooked that up to the legacy monitor jack, so that replaces the stock video output, because I persuaded the owner that if he's going to have DVI video, he probably needs to have his stock video as a fallback as well, because there's certain things that stock video can give you that DVI can't. Now we've got this DVI connector here for the Sophia board, and I'm very pleased with how that turned out. And we've got 3.5mm audio jack, because of course we can't transmit the audio on the DVI connector. So look at the state of my hands. It's just, you can see the acetone, IPA and stuff, terrible. Anyway, now that, although it's currently fixed to the back of the case, that's not actually how it's going to be. I'm waiting for a washer. And there's a hole, if you can see, down here. You can't see that really. There's a hole in this big black heatsink here. And right now this audio barrel jack's just going through that hole and it's fastened on the back of the case. But when I get the washer that I need, that's going to be bolted onto that black heatsink right there. You see. And completely independent of the outer casing, which is the way I like it. I don't really like fastening things to the back of the plastic casing if I can avoid it. And of course we've got Ultimate 1MB in the middle, and I had to mount this Ultimate in a slightly different position to where it would normally be in a machine like this when I do them anyway. Normally it would be kind of over here, I think. Yeah, sort of straddling the SIO connector, but of course with this DVI adapter board here I had to move the thing forward. I'll take the board out of the case. Have to undo this unfortunately at the moment. Now when I've got this the way I want it, the audio jack, I won't have to go through this rigmarole of having to loosen this off, which would be good. That was the whole idea, but this hole in the heatsink was already here, so I thought, what a good idea it would be to just use that to mount the jack onto. What a brilliant plan. So anyway, right, so we get a better look at what's going on here. Now, so the Ultimate 1 Megabyte would, I think the holes for the mounting holes would normally be sort of up here, and here we are at the bottom of the board again. This is what's going to screw the camera up, but it seems to be managing all right now. We'll just hope for the best. So I've drilled 2 holes here, and I just missed a trace there. It was a very, very tight squeeze because, of course, where I wanted to put the board, it would have actually, one of the screws would have gone straight through the SIO traces here, so I had to come up with a compromise position, but it's turned out okay. Now we've got wires here. We've got the chroma and luma and audio pickoff, not the luma, sorry, we've got the chrominance wire, and I've just got a ground and an audio pickoff for this audio jack there. So that's the bottom. That's just this is a jumper wire for A13 as part of the modification to a 1-chip operating system, which is what you need to do before you install Ultimate 1 Megabyte. So I'll link the Bob Woolley's PBI modification in the notes underneath the video. So basically what I did on this machine after the live stream, you can see I don't like the terminal block on the UAV, so I've replaced that with straight header pins as well. I think it actually looks a lot better. So that's been rewired, and I think the first thing I sorted out was the DVI connector. I'll give you a close look at that as well. I'll flip the board around. So the Sophia DVI adapter, it's got little vias on the bottom of the board, and they line up quite nicely to the vias that you expose when you take the RF modulator off an XE or an XL. There's a few little different pictures of via on the board. You can see they're all over the show here, nicely positioned so that you have a little bit of you have some options regarding, you know, where the holes line up and that sort of thing. And Simius provides some straight header pins. So the idea is basically that the header pins, one end goes through the vias on the adapter, the other end go through the vias on the motherboard, and everything is mounted nice and securely now on this board, quite understandably, because I still don't think the 1200 XL is that common of a machine. None of the holes here lined up with the vias that admittedly are there when you take the RF modulator off. Well, actually there's not many at all. There's a row of little vias there, but they're not going to be much use. So what I actually had to do here was drill some holes through the board where the ground shielding plane is there, and it was tricky as hell, but anyway, so what we've got ultimately here is this adapter is resting on 2 little legs either side there and 3 on the back, as you can see. And you may think it looks a bit flimsy, but I can pick the board up by this connector. So providing you don't plug the DVI adapter in the back and then slam it down with your hand, I don't think it's going to come off anyway. So don't do that. But by all means, pick the board up by the connector. That's fine. And it's high up as well because of the original hole for the RF modulator at the back here in the case. Obviously I wanted to reuse that. I didn't want a slot for a DVI connector and then a redundant hole above it. So I wanted to make it look as seamless as possible. So that's why it sits so high up. It's about 8mm off the board, I think. So that's what I did first. Obviously installing Sophia is very straightforward. Now the other thing you need to do, it's described, as I say, in Bob Woolley's document, before you install Ultimate 1 Megabyte, is convert the 1200 XL, which initially ships with two 8K operating systems ROM, a high ROM and a low ROM, and 1200 XL MMU. They need to come out. You may have 24-pin sockets in for the two OS ROM chips. You need to take them out if that's the case and put in 28-pin sockets. The vias are already there for them. You need to remove a jumper which one is it? W6, which is just next to the front chip here under this ribbon cable. And you need to populate just jumpers W11, W12 and W9. So you can take out, I think, 2 of the 3 that are already there and just change the positions of them. So you take one jumper off and change the positions, I think, of 2 others, 2 or 3. And then you add a wire to pin 23 of the CPU to the back pad of W6, which you already removed, to give you that extra address line, because the ROM, obviously the ROM's twice as big as it was before, so you need an extra address line to address it. And once that's all done, you should put in an XL XE operating system ROM, which is exactly what I did. So once I had these little modifications done, I first tried it with a standard XL XE MMU and a standard XL XE operating system ROM. It booted up straight to the memory, the self-test of course, because there's no built-in BASIC. You can have a built-in BASIC if you're not going to install Ultimate 1 megabyte. There's absolutely no point in doing so if you're going to put Ultimate 1 megabyte in, because it wouldn't be used. But you could, if you wanted, put a BASIC on an EEPROM in there if you weren't going to put Ultimate in the machine, and BASIC would work just fine and dandy if you read the instructions that Bob wrote. Obviously you stop before you get to the point of putting a PBI connector on the board, but everything else is valid. The external select part that Bob describes, you only need that signal if you're going to put something like a VBXE in the computer. Now, obviously we don't have that here, so we didn't have to mess around with the external select either. So that's basically what got done to the machine. As I say, a bit of rewiring, a bit of tidying up, a bit of shortening cables, that kind of thing. Now, one slight problem I did run into with this machine regarding the Sophia was the fact that when I first plugged it in with the DVI connector here, which I'll show you running shortly, I got an out of range error on the TV. Now this TV is usually very, very compatible with most stuff that you throw at it. Well, don't throw at it, obviously don't throw things at the TV, it's liable to break the screen, but you know what I mean. It's a very tolerant display, and I couldn't understand why, because normally I did suggest to the client that he ordered from the Brewing Academy, because he's in Canada, that he ordered 1280 by 1024 resolution with his Sophia, because that seems to be the most compatible one. It's certainly compatible here. And so I was very, very puzzled, and he did definitely order it with that resolution, but there's no sticker on the bottom of these ones from the Brewing Academy that with the resolution on, so I wasn't too sure. I had another board which was 1280 by 1024, swapped it into here, it worked. So that left the two explanations: either was something wrong with his board, or it just got programmed with the wrong resolution. A lot of people who get Sophias, DVI Sophias, obviously they worry about the resolution that they've chosen, and can they change it later on? Well, you can change it later on if you buy one of these. I'll hold it the right way up. This is just one particular model. You can get loads and loads of different ones from different places, but I originally needed that when we were working on the Ultimate cart with electro trains, so it's proved very useful. It could look like this as well. This is also an Altera USB blaster. It does exactly the same job as this one, and I think the cable will be compatible, so you can use either, and you can reprogram the Sophia with firmware for the chosen resolution. Now what I did here is I got another one of these micro connectors here, and I just crimped it because I still wanted to have the original connector on. I couldn't bother to make two cables, so I just crimped the connector halfway along, so now I've got a dual purpose cable. So if we pop that in there in the left hand connector, and then we can plug in the USB blaster. And of course the system needs to be powered up when you do this as well. So I'll pop over the PC and we'll run through what you need to do to actually program the device. Alright, so the first thing you need to do is head over to the Intel website and download Quartus Prime. You can get the free edition. This is quite an old version because I couldn't really be bothered with the hassle of downloading it again. And it took an age to unpack even this archived version that I had lying around, which I think is, which version is it? This is version 18, but you just need the programmer. If you can get hold of the programmer rather than the whole suite, that's all the better. And make sure that you have installed the proper drivers as well. So we go into Device Manager here, and drag it over to the correct screen. You should see USB, Altera USB blaster in the device tree there in the USB area. But Windows won't auto install. You'll get an exclamation mark next to this device if you just plug it straight in. So just simply select update driver, browse computer, and then go into the Quartus drivers folder, and it will install the driver for you. And at that point the programming software should pick it up. You'll get a drop down box around about here, I think it is, initially, before you actually choose which device you want to use. So anyway, we need to apply power, so I'm going to plug the 1200XL in here and just turn it on, and we should get auto detect, which we do. There we are. So this has showed up the EPM 570, and we're going to do program configure. Oh well, we need to add the file, so we load the file, which I've saved on the desktop here. Desktop, and we want that. Now what I've found here is that if you do an auto detect using that, and then you load the POF file, you end up with two devices here and you have to delete them. So what you can do is load the POF file first, and then that will inherently auto detect the device as well, and then you can just tick these two columns here, and then you get start. So you just hit start and it will program the device, and there you are. That's pretty much all there is to it. So yes, as I say, the way to do it seems to be to run the programming software, make sure it detects the USB blaster, power on the computer, load the file or add the file, and then simply tick these two columns. Because if you do auto detect first, you'll get a spurious device and then another device when you load the file as well. So this seems to be the way to do it. Load the device, program, configure and verify, check them, and then you can start programming. And that is all there is to it. And when I did this process on the problematic board, it thereafter worked. So it must have shipped with the wrong resolution programmed onto the board. So if we now power on, we should get nice digital video, which we do, and audio as well. Obviously we need to update this ancient ROM and firmware here, but everything does appear to work now. So yes, I hope you found that one interesting, perhaps useful if you need to update your Sophia DVI board. So if there's anything I didn't cover properly or explain well, please feel free to ask questions in the comments below, and give your comments regarding what you think of this machine as well. I think it's turned out rather nicely. I'm sure the owner's going to be very, very happy with it. But what do you think? Are these the kind of upgrades that you'd fit in the machine, or would you have done things a little bit differently? Owner of this machine also has a side too, so he's going to have the hard disk functionality and nice video. I think the only thing that I can see is missing from this computer is stereo audio. So yes, I hope you enjoyed that one. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, please do subscribe. I will be making another Side 3 update video at some point. I didn't think the time was right, given the fact that I had a bit of a blooper the last time I tried it, on this very computer in fact. But never mind, we won't dwell on that. And yes, so I'll see you in the next video, and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye for now.